we're back here. I rushed out of the room into the grand hall, seeing Diana continue to stare into the barrier. Inside, however, was Matthew sitting cross-legged and smirking at Diana. Matthew. Diana and Matthew looked over at me, surprised to see me enter.
Human, what are you?
I ignored Diana and continued forward, standing in front of the barrier and staring into Matthew's eyes. Matthew, it's me. Wake up and get a hold of yourself. Matthew stared in shock at me before smirking and crawling over with a pout.
Aw, is the little human upset that she can't get fucked?
Oh my god, dude. Jesus Christ. Okay, reel that back in. That's way too much there. I had to ignore him. The Demon Lord was taunting me, tempting me to get angry. Still, I concentrated on Matthew's eyes, knowing Matthew was in there somewhere. Matthew, I know you're there. You can fight this. I know you can. I could see a small glimmer in Matthew's eyes, providing that I was right. I smiled and pressed my hands against the walls of the barrier, trying to press myself against the magic block that blocked Matthew from me. Listen to me. You can stop this. You can do this yourself. I began to fill with hope. Despite my words also reaching the Demon Lord, Matthew was also listening, and I could only hope that my love was fueling his need to stop his father's control. The barrier beneath my hand slowly began to solidify as my body slowly pressed into the wall, and suddenly barrel rolled inside. What? What the fuck just happened?
No!
Uh-oh. I think I fucked up. I looked up, finding myself inside the barrier somehow, looking around and seeing Matthew staring at me intensely. I gulped, knowing that the Demon Lord was still there, running Matthew's every movement, every word that ran from his lips. Still, I believed in him. I slowly stood up and walked over, opening my arms for him. I'm feeling a little nervous right now. Ugh, God. Matthew, I love you and I'm here for you. Please, break through this and come back to me. He's gonna fucking stab me or something. Slowly, Matthew walked forward, shakily reaching out his hands for me. I could see the desperation in his eyes as he tried to listen. Yes, that was it. I walked forward and held my hands before feeling them slide up to my cheeks, warming my face with his palms.
Ew.
Oh god, I'm scared. For a moment, a glimmer of his blue eyes filled my heart with joy. I gripped his hands, desperate for him to hang on and fight. Finally, Matthew gritted his teeth and released my face, gripping his head. Oh, did it actually work? Okay, I was a little scared there.
Get out of my head!
Matthew! I rushed over, wrapping my arms around his back as Matthew sank to his knees, digging his fingers into his hair. I could hear Diana trying to see what was going on, but my body managed to block her view. Matthew looked up at the wall and snarled.
Get out!
Okay, this is crazy. Matthew shouted at the sky, arcing back and releasing a large red wave of energy from his body. It zipped into the air and broke free of the barrier, circling over the ceiling like a thunder cloud. In quick response, Diana pointed her hands out and formed a large purple orb in her hand before tossing it at the energy, capturing it in another cage and letting it hit the ground locked inside. My focus, however, was on Matthew. He panted and coughed, clasping over his neck and chest in pain as he shut his eyes tightly. I barely noticed the sound of Matthew's brothers and their wives running in to see what had happened. I lifted Matthew in my arms and caught his eyes as he opened them, seeing the man I loved once again back in my arms. Matthew? Matthew very slowly let a grin run across his face as he lifted a hand and cut my cheek.
Hey, beautiful.
Hey, boy. You're big. My breath hitched as I quickly fell forward and wrapped my arms around Matthew, uncaring that the barrier around us was slowly being dispelled by Diana. Matthew wrapped his arms around my form, hugging me tightly and kissing over my neck. It's so sweet to have you back, Matthew. Yeah. You're welcome. I missed you. The moment seemed to last forever, a private world with me and Matthew in each other's arms, desperate not to let go. However, Diana's voice caused us to slowly separate and look up at her.
Not that I care that I'm breaking this moment apart, but we have more important things to do than this.
Yeah, you're right. Diana rolled her eyes and took up the orb that held the Demon Lord's control energy, staring into it with a piercing gaze.
I will take care of this, but I'm positive that this is not all of it. After all, he did control you enough to kill.
Yeah. I felt myself slump over. She really wasn't going to forgive him, but she was right. The Demon Lord's control was ultra-powerful. Who knew how much control he really had? Diana sighed and rolled the orb away into the air before looking at us.
Well then, I've spent enough time fixing this. Now I must prepare for a war. Excuse me.
Okay. Diana nodded to us and left without another word. Matthew, however, grinned at me and nuzzled my forehead. All the nuzzles.
Guess I really did need saving after all.
Yeah, I tried to tell you, but fuck me, right? Not literally, don't do that right now. I shook my head, knowing that was not true. I was there to help, not there to save. I kissed Matthew's cheek and smiled. I only helped you do it on your own. You broke his control over you, not me. We chuckled for each other, slowly standing and happy to be in each other's arms at last. James, however, stepped forward with a frown, causing Matthew to release me.
Matthew, I apologize for not being a proper brother for you and treating you with the respect you deserve.
Oh, isn't that
I
sweet?
would never want you to not trust me or the others.
Yeah. In agreement, the other brothers stepped up and nodded, ashamed as well. Matthew stared at all of them in shock before kissing my cheek and stepping towards them.
Hey. You're my brothers.
This
We're
is the
supposed
best
to
family
support and
moment
protect each
ever.
other, right?
All 5 of them smiled at each other as I felt myself needing to rest. What the fuck? I held the wall slightly, maintaining my balance as I shook my head and looked up at the brothers, seeing them happily rekindling their brotherly love they had before. Yeah, so sweet. I looked to the wives, winking. What the fuck? Before sneaking out. Matthew needed some time with his brothers to settle some differences. I would wait for him in the room. All this sleeping! As I left, I searched for Diana. Time had passed, and I knew that now was the moment to get my deserved answers. At least I wasn't being followed. So I began to scour the castle, trying to find where Diana had gone off to. Hi. At the sound of Sarah's clearing his throat, I quickly turned around and saw Sarah look to me, as if he was waiting for me to turn around and face him. As I did, he nodded his head and gestured to follow him. I did, following him into a new branch of the castle I had not been in before. I was stunned to see such a place, but as I walked on, the air seemed to grow fresher with each step. Eventually, I was led to a door. Sarah slowly opened it, and I could only stare at what I had been presented. Oh, what the fuck? A large forest, obviously hidden and bound by magic, stretched as far as my eyes could see past the door. As I stepped out, I could feel that I was somehow in another void, some sort of protected place in the castle. I continued to walk in, taking in the sights around me. The trees were lush, and the air was as fresh as the countryside in the human world. Despite the feeling of magic around me, I could tell that this place was an untainted sanctuary. Wow, okay. Soon enough, however, I stopped at the side of Diana, kneeling by a large and beautiful pink and purple tree. She had her head bowed as if she was praying, so I very slowly walked up beside her, wondering what she was doing. The song she was muttering was unfamiliar, but the sight in her hands made me silently gasp in surprise. A small silver crown, barely large enough to fit a newborn's head, rested in her hands as Diana stared down at it lovingly. The way she held it on her palm showed its significance, as if it could break at the smallest movement. After a moment, Diana lowered it to the base of the tree alongside 2 beautiful gold crowns that looked to be freshly polished and wielded. As Diana pulled her hands away, she looked to me with a slight frown. Am I supposed to know what that is?
This was my punishment.
What? This? Diana nodded and turned her head back to the crowns.
Before I went to the human world, I was a simple princess. I studied every topic of knowledge known to the abyssal planes, and trained to one day become a strong and powerful queen. That was all thanks to my mother and father.
Okay. My eyes drifted to the 2 crowns, realizing the significance. Diana continued.
Months before I was supposed to be wed to James, my mother and father told me that I was going to have a baby sister. I couldn't have been any happier. Every descendant of Lilith is born a single child, but to have a sibling.
Okay. The small crown caught my attention as Diana let out a shaky sigh, but kept speaking.
I vowed to protect her and my parents, knowing that the wedding would ensure our kingdom's safety. But when I arrived at the Demon Lord's castle, I was told that the wedding was cancelled, and the agreement that kept my kingdom safe was on the verge of dissolving, because my husband and his brothers had run off.
Yeah, that was the thing that happened, huh?
My instinct was to run back home, protect my city and my family at all costs. But another urge struck me at the same time.
What do you mean? Diana looked up at the tree's leaves, causing me to do the same. On each branch were a plethora of purple fruits that resembled peaches. I was stunned to see so many hidden beneath the leaves of the tree, but Diana's answer caused me to look back at her attentively.
In the kingdom of heaven, there is a city called Yggdrasil.
That's a
It
big
runs
name.
like clockwork, and the spirits that live there are the ones who influence everything that happens in the human world. The weather, the environment, everything.
Okay. I stared wide-eyed at Diana. There was a city that was devoted to that? How the hell did that even work? Diana continued, trying to ease my confusion.
There are beings in that city called muses. Powerful beings who have a gift given to them by the ruler of heaven called suggestion. It gives them the ability to strongly encourage people to do something in their
So,
lives.
like, a
whether
conscience?
it be bad or good.
Kind of?
One muse, however, is powerful enough to live outside of the city, and decided to make a very, very strong suggestion to me for the sake of her story.
What? Are you talking about the fucking person that wrote this? I tried to take what the- wait a second. So, like, I feel like she's insinuating that our world is the heaven, and then there's, like, people that write stories and they're, like, the muses. Oh, that's kind of funny. I tried to take everything in. I expected an answer, but this seemed ridiculous. Muses? Suggestion? How was this all possible? Demons were one thing, but having the ability to control people with suggestion? That was way too overpowered to even be real.
This muse needed a proper villain for her story.
Oh god, she
One who had
is!
everything to lose,
Oh,
but
man.
no way to try and protect what she had. A stubborn princess who was willing to kill for the sake of her kingdom.
Ah, man. Ah, fuck, I skipped it. Fuck. Diana nodded silently, swallowing her grief.
While my heart told me to return to my kingdom, my mind became obsessed with finding the boys and bringing them home. I begged the Demon Lord to let me find them and bring them back, and he agreed to hold off any invasion until I returned. I dissected the castle, looking through every nook and cranny, trying to find any hints to where they had gone. When I found the remnants of the gate spell your grandfather used to bring them to the human world, my mind suddenly latched on to getting through without a second thought.
Diana looked away from me, lowering her head in shame.
Without thinking it through, I recast the gate spell and used the remainder of that man's life to enter the human world. I didn't realize what I had done until the gate closed and he took his last breath.
Oh, you killed my grandfather. You were there when he died?
I was.
Oh yeah, I found that out last
The
game.
gate spell was connected to him, so when I opened it back up, it sent me straight to him and allowed me to use his life energy.
I watched as Diana lifted her hands and stared into them, slightly shaking.
When I realized what I had done, I became racked with grief. I ran as far as I could from his body, changing myself
What the
into a
fuck?
human, and simply ran until I couldn't any longer. I had taken away the life of a human, something demons are not allowed to do unless it was to protect the secrets of magic. I feared the angels would hunt me down.
This
But
is
as I
really, this is a lot
I
to
suddenly
take
became
in,
filled
honestly.
with unjustified purpose and confidence. I repurposed my disguise to match how I really looked, and found myself on the hunt for the incubi.
All of this was because of a muse?
Muses are dangerous beings, dear. While they cannot completely control you, their suggestions are as powerful as your natural instincts. This muse didn't want her villain to wallow in grief, but to become the perfect enemy for her main character.
Me! Diana nodded once
A
more.
love story that would wreck the 5 worlds. A romance of a
Oh
human
god.
and a demon prince.
This is like breaking the
When
fourth
the love
walls.
of a human is said to be impossible to gain, could a simple human have the strength to obtain it with her heart?
How do you know all this? It all made sense. Diana killed my grandfather who granted me his mansion where I met the incubi. All of the pieces of my past were aligned with Diana being both a victim of circumstance, the inciting incident of my life, and the villain I had to go up against. I stared at my knees, feeling my mind jumble at piecing everything together. My life was written out by someone beyond my control. I started to question everything. Were any of the choices I made in my life my own? I don't want to break it to you. Sensing my fear, Diana placed a hand on my shoulder and I felt her calm my anxiety. As I looked up at her, she gave me a sad smile.
Before you think that your life is a lie, know that a muse only has the ability to focus on one individual when making their suggestion. Every choice you made was of your own design, even the part when you told me off.
Did I do that? I looked deep into Diana's eyes, seeing her sincerity and wisdom of the words she spoke. I felt relieved that I was in control of my life, but to have a story laid out for me was something I wasn't prepared to completely take in. Maybe it was better to be ignorant. I shook my head and attempted to change the subject. That doesn't explain what that copycat was. Diana chuckled and moved to sit on her hip, looking at me with a hand over her lap.
Well, I am a very powerful
shit.
succubus, as you well know. I couldn't just let a muse completely use me. So after I stole your energy that night, before I returned home, I forced the suggestion out of my soul, hoping to be rid of it forever.
Huh.
Unfortunately, when I returned and found my kingdom in flames, my grief resurrected it, and it became a permanent part of me, haunting me and reminding me of what I could have been. A ruthless, cruel temptress.
This
Could
is
have
pretty
killed another
fucking
human to
deep.
get
This
her
is
way.
real deep. I don't know what to
It
say.
forced me to believe that everything was my fault, and in a way, it was. I wasn't strong enough to stop the suggestion from taking over. It became the source of my madness, controllable at first, but fueled by each fight I fought with the Demon Lord.
It made sense. If Diana herself had madness, then fighting the Demon Lord made it worse. That's why it became powerful enough to become its own being. What if it consumed her? I shivered at the idea of cruel Diana returning, making Diana giggle a bit.
Don't worry, dear. That copycat is no longer here. I don't think I can ever revert back to who I was. But I promise that the woman who destroyed your grandfather's life is gone.
Well, I figured as much. Well, what are you gonna do now? After another soft chuckle, Diana looked at the magic sky beyond the tree line.
I think I'll save this world and help it grow for as long as I can. It's what my family would have wanted.
Yeah. What about what you want? Diana's happiness was important as well. Now that she was free of her guilt and obligations, she could choose her life. Diana looked at her feet and shook her head.
What I want does not matter. It never has. What is important is this world and its safety.
For once, I was able to understand what the copycat meant by having a golden heart. I felt a little envious and a little pity for her. Hopefully she'd be truly happy just helping the demon world without expecting anything in return. I left her by the tree to prepare for the morning. We needed to rest, and Diana wanted to be alone with her family one last time before the siege.
Hey.
Yes? Huh? What is it?
Keep everything that happened between us. I'm asking
Oh,
sincerely.
everyone and their secrets. Okay, fine. With a nod, I smiled and made a silent promise to keep quiet. With that, I returned to my room. Okay. I finally returned to our room and flopped into the bed, letting the events of my time in the abyssal plains replay in my mind. I'd been trapped here, and soon enough I was about to go marching into battle against the Demon Lord for my freedom. The more I thought about it, the more surreal the feelings became. I was going to be in a room, meeting a powerful adversary face to face, and set myself free of the curse he brought down upon me. What made my head spin was the fact that Matthew had been under the influence of his father and mother's control. It was beyond imaginary, yet it happened. I couldn't believe it, but at the same time I had no choice but to come to terms with it. As Matthew entered the room at last, I smiled and stood, walking over and wrapping my arms around him as he returned my embrace.
You're the best person in the entire universe.
I mean, I guess. I'm just a person. And you are too, Matthew. Even though you killed a man. That's fucked up. We held each other, locked in silence and unable to say anything more. We had been in a heavy predicament and we escaped. Sure, the Demon Lord may have still had some sway over Matthew, but it wasn't enough to control him now. We hope. All we could do in the moment was hold each other and listen to our synchronized heartbeats. As the thought of tomorrow danced in my head, I began to fear it even more. Was I ready to go into battle? Was Matthew? Were any of us, for that matter? We were about to walk into the final battle of a world war. Would we survive? Would I live to see Matthew afterward and feel his embrace again? Tomorrow brought too many questions to think about, and I became frustrated and scared. Yeah, this is a lot. Oh, fuck. Dude, didn't we just... No, that was days ago. Like, does this really affect, like, how the story becomes? Like, if I don't sleep with him, like, what? I don't know if I can do that again. But shit. Okay, let's just go to sleep this time. I've been having... This is like the second time we've had sex. We need our rest for the war. We can't be up all night pounding it out. Let's go to sleep. We would survive. We would be okay. I felt safe in Matthew's arms, and I'm sure he felt safe in mine. We would return to the human world and would be okay. Matthew slowly walked me back to bed, and both of us tucked ourselves in, wrapping each other in our arms and escaping one last time to the darkness of slumber. Tomorrow would decide everything. Ah, fuck. Okay, here we go. This is it. The day of the siege had finally dawned. We had arrived at the Demon Lord's castle, and we were ready as we could be. Many armies bearing different banners and colors washed over the grounds before the castle, ready to rush in and lay waste to the Demon Lord and the remainder of his forces. All of us shared a common enemy, and upon his demise would all finally know some form of peace. Even during the roll call of the major generals, the air became full of determination and pride.
Mirth! Avarice!
Oh, all these
Nausea,
nice names.
Fiorna!
Each name called became a mark on history. This was the war to bring freedom or destruction to the demon world. If the rebellion didn't win this fight, then this war would never end. If the rebellion won, then the world would become united in hopeful, peaceful rule. An hour before the battle was set to take place, my thoughts instantly ran back to our final meeting in Lilith's castle. Diana had pulled the leaders and us together, instructing us on how exactly to proceed.
Zero, You will be joining Shadow and Sergeant in the front, taking care
Okay.
of the main army head-on. I expect that you will come out of it alive.
I expect you won't let yourself get killed, because that's a choice you
Yes,
can
ma'am.
make.
Rabbit, Faye, you are in charge of range attacks and defense. We cannot allow any of those blasted imps getting to us from behind.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yes, ma'am.
As Diana looked at me, I grew slightly fearful. I had to get into the Demon Lord's castle, but how exactly did Diana plan on getting me there?
You and your fiancé will take the side route straight to the castle.
Okay. Wait, huh?
We've organized our army to have our strongest on the front lines and against the tree line, giving us a side route for you to make your way straight to the castle.
Okay.
If anything trickles into the side route, you'll be able to handle it. However, there is something I must ask of you.
Yes? What is it?
If you are indeed attacked, you need to defend your fiancé the entire way there.
Oh
Do
yeah,
not
okay.
let him use his energy.
No way!
When you get to the castle, I will be fighting one-on-one with the Demon Lord. If something should happen to me, then I need you to take over.
That's
not ready to fight
true,
him,
Matthew.
And you need to be at full strength to finish him off.
That's definitely true. I've been training for this, Matthew. Now it's your turn to trust me. I stared, listening and reaffirming the orders. I couldn't lie, I was nervous. However, I was determined enough to see this through. I looked over at my fiancé with a confident smile. I got this, don't worry. Despite the worried look in his eyes, he nodded and held my hand, trusting me in my decision to agree with Diana's commands. Diana rolled her shoulders and looked at the map draped over the war table between us all. Her gaze pierced into the parchment as the aura around her body pulsated in anger.
I will fly ahead and meet the Demon Lord head-on. No matter what happens, I will not allow that monster to live.
Jeez. The pure determination and anger in her voice practically sent a shiver down my spine. She was set on seeing this through in the end, and I was sure that she was willing to even die if it meant taking the Demon Lord with her. The remaining incubi and their wives were asked to stay behind the army and guard the main base, where Rabbit and Faye were stationed. They needed as many eyes as possible on the back of the battle, so the 4 couples were perfect to keep things in check. As they agreed, the meeting ended and the mental preparation had begun. The idea of the upcoming battle scared me, sending waves of fear and worry up and down my body in response to the thought.
Man, well, I'm nervous.
Yeah.
How about you?
This is life or death, so I'm pretty fucking nervous. Yeah. Matthew wrapped an arm around my waist and turned my body to him, hugging me closely.
Hey, everything will be okay.
Why do I have the feeling that that's not exactly true? I listened to him speak before nodding, taking in a deep breath. Everything would be okay. We'd be fine. I had to believe in myself and get us to the castle when the time was right. Oh shit, we are going for it. This is it. Like a beacon, our forces became the banner of hope and strength of the rebellion. At the sight of Diana, many soldiers bowed or stared in awe and inspiration. Maybe it was her presence, or maybe it was for what she stood for. But as Diana stood at the cliffside of the mountain, the air became full of energy and power. My fiancé, Rabbit, Faye, and I stood behind her as Diana stood on the ledge of the cliffside, addressing the rebellion in her final battle. Her voice echoed across the field, booming and reverberating through the air like thunder.
Milites! Et hoc liberati esturei tramcun
I
tuis conversiris,
don't-
viscum
I wish I knew what you were saying.
Noc-
What is she saying?
She said that we're all fighting for freedom and that she'll lead us to it.
Okay. Is that it?
Pretty much. Everything else she's saying is just to rile everyone up for battle.
Ooh, yeah, battle. I nodded as I stared at the back of Diana's head. A part of me felt a little intimidated and jealous of the power she had. She really could make armies bow to her and obey her at every whim. At the same time, I knew that she was doing the right thing for this world.
Ele Dio dominati sunt nostri. Nos destruet.
Yeah,
Dio
I
mitere.
feel ya.
Profundis
Battle.
in-
Lights are in the sky.